So addictions are basically an act that your body keeps repeating to fulfill that lust for dopamine. And you must understand this clearly. Whether it's nice food, gambling, or pornography, the activity itself is not what you crave. It's that hit of dopamine. Of course, there are chemical addictions which make it even harder as your body physically craves the chemical that's within these drugs. But there are ways to break this, which I'll explain further on. Now, when the cravings begin, it's due to your dopamine levels making a descent. Your brain's new number one priority is to get these levels above or just back to normal. The first thing it thinks is, okay, well, what neural pathways have we already formed that I can go to get myself out of this depression? So it's looking around and it sees, boom, drugs, porn, gambling, food, all of these things, smoking, cocaine, whatever it might be, is seeing it and it's already seen these established neural pathways. So it goes, that's an easy one. And then you feel that rush of cravings because your brain doesn't care about how you're going to feel tomorrow. It cares about now. And that's all it wants. So it's going into primal mode. It goes, right, let's get this in straight away and let's get it and let's go. And I'm not going to stop these cravings until I get it. So you must use your newfound knowledge to your advantage. Once you stop your addiction, you usually experience feelings of sadness and hopelessness. Now, this feeling can last around 2 weeks, as your current dopamine regulation relies on your addiction, and taking it away leaves you in the pain zone. As a result, your brain will do everything in its power to get you to smoke that one cigarette, place that bet, or eat that one square of chocolate. Because as long as you're in the pain zone, your brain has a problem at hand that it only knows one way to solve. And you know what this is already. You get your cravings, you feel it, and then you start convincing yourself, you start justifying to yourself why it's not that bad if you do it. And that's when it gets dangerous, because this is actually down to your prefrontal cortex. So once your addiction's rife, your prefrontal cortex is where you have your decision making, and it's at this point it's very weak. It takes 90 days for that to fully come back. So your decision making right now, while you're in the kind of addicted zone, is weak. You're listening to that primal instinct and the cravings, and what happens is those cravings come and you've got to try to justify it to yourself so that you don't feel guilty about it. So for instance, that chocolate, you probably think to yourself, oh, I've worked hard today, I've walked, I deserve it, it's been hard. And then you have it, and that one piece was quite easy, and the next hour or next 2 hours you think, I've already had one, I might as well have another, and before you know it, it's a whole piece of chocolate. It's not that initial kind of step, it's what it leads to that's the bad thing. And that's what essentially we need to stop and reinforce to yourself that this is going to happen. If you have this one piece of chocolate, if you make this one bet, it's going to spiral out of control, get worse. And we need to intercept that positive association you have with the drug or just the activity itself. Now, as long as you're in the pain zone, your brain has a problem at hand and it only knows one way to solve. So the best way to mitigate this is by making sure the next 2 weeks are full of activities you enjoy. So everything that's a natural reinforcer that will release dopamine, what you enjoy, for instance, watching sports, being with your friends, playing football, playing sports. For me, whenever I tried stopping something, like I tried getting off sugar, because I'm absolutely addicted to sugar, and I can't just have a little bit here and there. It is literally 0 or 100. If I have one piece of cake, it's non-stop for a week or whatever until I fully stop it. It's it. So I have to go pretty much 0 with sugar. So what I'll do is when I'm having sugar, there's other ways. I'll be with my friends, watch the football, whatever is a natural reinforcer that isn't that bad for me and that I can control. So for instance, if you want to quit smoking for the next 2 weeks, as I said, watch a Netflix series, watch a new movie. Do things that you want to do. In addition to this, you need to reduce the chance of stressful situations. Now, the reason for this is cortisol, which obviously is the stressful chemical, actually depletes dopamine, which by extension puts you back into the pain zone. Now, after this period of time, the dopamine levels should begin to normalize in your brain. But that doesn't mean the cravings will go. That just means the bad feelings, the sadness, the hopelessness will go. The cravings will still linger. So there's a reason for this, and it's because your brain is always building new neural pathways. You need to maintain the ability to adapt and change the brain structure. It's currently being poorly organized as a result of your addiction, and it's been proven that drugs such as cocaine or amphetamines results in a significant increase in dendritic branching and the density of dendritic spines in the prefrontal cortex. And this is what I was saying about the prefrontal cortex again. So this is all the neural pathways that are getting built. When you have cocaine and amphetamine, there's a lot of them. It's taking a lot of control, basically. So that's why those cravings are so strong for it, because when it's there, it knows exactly what it wants, and it's going to not stop till you get it. So you've got to be really strong to go over that. These changes in the synaptic connectivity have been linked to the change in decision-making, judgment, as I said, cognitive control that occur during addiction. But this also works both ways. Now, as when we take away the drug or the stimuli, the brain is able to modify, grow, reorganize itself after addiction, altering your dopamine regulation for the better. Your brain can literally change shape. Like over 90 days, I think it's about 90 days it takes for your brain to literally change shape, like physical structure, by your thoughts and your actions. Now, that's I find that so crazy, because you're literally taking what you're thinking into the physical realm. And this is actually called neuroplasticity. So this does take time, and the time it takes depends on the type of substance taken and the damage done. Now, in some very, very rare cases, damage is irreversible, but that is like of a lifetime of abuse. And still in that case, it still could be reversible. Now, research at the University College London actually showed that it takes individuals to change their behavioural patterns about 18 to 254 days, with most people showing that it takes 66 days and taking 2 months to form new ones. In addition to this, researchers from Yale University discovered that the brain's prefrontal cortex needs 90 days to regain proper decision-making and analytical functioning, as I said before. Now, during these 90 days, the techniques to use vary depending on the substance. However, the techniques we want to use to get over this, the gold dust, that have been known to work before, are interventions to decrease the rewarding value of drugs. So, like I said, with me, where it was with like gambling or food, or I said sugar, for me, it was using these kind of negative reward systems so that I would associate that pattern that I'd previously associated with to be good to bad, so that now my brain realizes that actually I'm not going to get the dopamine rush that I want from this, because it's going to lead to something bad afterwards, trying to closely associate the two things. So you can do that, and you can also do this with pharmaceutical drugs. Now, obviously, I can't provide those, so for that you would have to go to a GP and discuss this with them, but that is a method you can use. Secondly, interventions to increase the value of non-drug reinforcers, such as pharmaceutical and behavioral treatments that increase sensitivity to natural enforcers and establish alternative reinforcing behaviors. So this is essentially substituting something, but using a pharmaceutical drug to enhance that substitute. So like I said on my friend, he didn't want to gamble, he had a McDonald's. You could have, maybe McDonald's is not the best one to do, but you could say, for instance, like when you play football with your friends, or you go out with your friends, you can introduce things to make that even better. Not drugs, but like you could play football and you could have your favorite takeaway food again. You could just do things that you love, and if you can control your alcohol consumption, intervene some alcohol in it, but that's only if you can control it, and that isn't the thing you're trying to go over, because I know for a lot of you that will be. Thirdly, interventions to weaken learned drug responses, such as behavioral treatments to extinguish the learned positive associations with the drug and the drug cues, but also promote differential reinforcement of other behaviors. And lastly, interventions to strengthen frontal control, such as cognitive therapy. Now, this one is basically trying to bring back the decision making in your prefrontal cortex to stronger before the 90-day mark, so that you can make those decisions. Your decision making is as strong as it should be, as it would be if you didn't have that addiction that you're battling. So I can help with all the behavioral deterrents, which I will be helping with in this. So this will be showing how to strengthen your mind, the cognitive therapy aspects. But with the actual pharmaceutical route, obviously you've got to go through a GP. But that essentially is addictions, the science behind it, the days that you have to kind of work with. Because I think it's very important that if you have goals to aim for, it makes it a lot easier. For instance, if I'm doing press-ups and I'm saying I'll just keep going until I feel some pain, I'll quit. But if I say I'm going to do 35 and the pain barrier hits at 27, there's only 8 left. So because I know there's 8 left, I'm going to push that a little bit harder. So now you know that you've got a 90-day period to work with, and that after 66 days you're likely to break those behavioral patterns, and it takes 2 months to form new ones. Now you have the goals to work with, and you have the techniques to use. So I hope that helps and it really allows you to think and put a plan together and something to aim for with whatever addiction you're struggling from. But you will get there and we'll get there together.